All right. Hello, everybody. We've got a lovely little character up here to say hi to you on this morning. So, welcome back to the first day of LameJam. I'm very excited to introduce this talk. We are going to have Forrest Anderson. He is obviously one of our co-coordinators, but he is also one of the community managers for the open source Rust game Veloren, which has so many people working on it, so many people playing it. It's been so exciting to see this thing develop. And he's going to be talking to us today about open source game development, his work with Veloren, and all sorts of fun stuff in this space. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what open source is for some of these people, and let's chat Veloren and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Connor. I'm just trying. Oh, here we go. Okay, I got my window back. I have like 4 monitors, and sometimes when I'm setting up streams, it gets a little bit complex. But I think I'm good to go. So, yeah, thank you so much for the intro. I'm gonna be talking about Veloren today, and so this is a product I've been working on for a few years. And what I sort of want to try and go through is a little bit about what the game is, diving into what open source looks like, and then also exploring how people can get started on projects like that. And so I'll give us like a quick overview of the game first. And so if anybody from Discord, I'm streaming on Discord as well. So if anybody can just tell me if the audio is working over there, that would be great. And then yeah, we can dive in. So Veloren is an open world game. It looks quite similar to Minecraft. We got like cubes that make up everything. But it's not as much focused on building. It's a lot more focused on exploration and questing, and like leveling up and progression and stuff like that. And so it's actually inspired from a game called Cube World that came out around like I think 2012 or something like that. And after development slowed on that game, a community got together on Reddit and was like, hey, it would be really cool if we could try and build something like this ourselves, but have it open source so that anybody can play it. And anybody can contribute to it, and there's no restrictions. And so this is what Veloren is. I'm on the multiplayer server right now, and so if I take a look right here, we can see that we have 25 other people online right now. And this is sort of what Veloren looks like. And so right now, I don't know what time of day it is. It's either morning or night, but we got like the nice sky going on. We got some farms over here. I got like a super powerful lantern, so we can take a walk off into the wilderness a bit. But you can play with your friends. If we take a look at the map, we can see we're in the village of Eldon right now, and we got quite a large world to be able to explore. Now, one of the interesting things is, unlike Minecraft, the world size isn't actually infinitely sprawled out. It is constrained to this sort of island. And the reason for this is that we do a lot of simulations at the beginning of the game that require a finite sized world to be able to work. And so our erosion simulations require finite sized world, our economy simulations, our other types of like agent systems and how different cities interact with one another. They need to know within like a finite world how everything is generated. So similar to how Dwarf Fortress does a lot of its calculations and stuff. But then, so this is one part of the game. It's cool to see like how a voxel game sort of looks like this. We got like mountains off in the distance. But then the other part that's quite interesting is that this game is entirely open source. And so you can go look at all of the code that makes it up. And so for a lot of people, this is something that sorry, I'm just the wrong screen. Okay, there we go. So this is something that people kind of look and be like, that's kind of odd. Why would people work on something like this so much out in the open without getting paid, without like having the idea of getting compensated in the future for it? And so, we got a little firefly over here. I think go check that out. And so the thing about this is one of the biggest strengths of the game is that we can have people just come out, work on what they want, contribute to the things that they find cool, and spend as much time on it as they want. We're not really restrained in the same way that a studio is about having a release at a certain time and getting things done. Well, we do have releases at certain times, but you don't necessarily have to crunch to get your feature in. Well, some people do crunch to get their features in. But because of this type of this approach, people have been able to work on some amazing systems that we haven't seen in other games similar to this. And so, as I mentioned, we have like our erosion system, which helps us. Here, let me zoom out a bit. We can take a look at the world map. I'm gonna cheat a little. I'm an admin on the server. if I go time, day, I apologize to anybody who's playing and enjoying the night, but people probably ask stuff, but that's fine. So if we take a look, we have mountains off in the distance. We have some rivers here. We have like a lake right down here. And so this is a system. This is a lot of systems combined together. The reason we can see all of this so far away, like in Minecraft, you have chunks. We do have chunks in Veloren as well, but we also give you like a low res version of everything else that is out in the world. And so we can see we have mountains off in the distance that aren't actually rendered in full quality. If we look like close to here, we can see that we got like some graphical stuff that looks like terrain, but it's actually just or it looks like cubes, but it's actually just faked terrain. If we look at the water, I think the water has a shader on it, so that actually maybe so rivers don't have the shader unless they're big enough, but if we look at the lakes, we can see like the shader even though we're far away. But then the thing about this sort of like level of detail is if we see like a mountain off in the distance over there and we go towards that mountain, once we get there, it will start rendering in as the mountain we saw from off in the distance. And so the entire mountain will load in. And this is something that's incredibly powerful because it means that any mountain you see off in the distance, you can go explore yourself. If I go take a look at the river down here, there'll be a lot that loads in, like trees and stuff like that. But I can, like, there is the river that will pop in right here. So let's see if I can get myself to here. I got a lot of wolves, pack of wolves. I don't think they like me very much, but that's okay. And so we have the level of detail to be able to see stuff on the distance, and we have the terrain that's generated with an erosion system. And this is how we can have rivers that lead into lakes and mountains that look a lot more realistic than things you might see in other procedurally generated games, is because we do a lot of erosion simulation. And so this is sort of all to say that someone was able to sit down and go through all of the erosion simulations, set up the world gen to work like this, set up all of these very complex level of detail systems and put them in place. And so, and we get like a really, really great product out of it. And so now let's back up a little bit and talk a little bit about open source as sort of an ideology, but just as an approach for developing things. And so the idea behind open source is that you have the code open. Anybody can use the code. Anybody can make changes to the code as long as it abides by the license that comes with the code. And this is becoming more and more prevalent for a lot of software in today's day and age, where, sorry, I'm just going to switch this up. Let me zoom in here. Oh, they pushed me into the river. Very cool. And so much more software nowadays is moving towards open source because it has the ability to attract a lot of people to work on it who wouldn't have been able to work on it before. It helps with improving security of software. It helps with getting more eyes on software. It helps to bring more diversity to software building, and enabling anybody around the world to contribute. And so in particular, Veloren has had well over 200 people contribute to the game from all around the world. And this consists of development, this consists of art, this consists of audio, this consists of writing, design, balancing. There's so much stuff that goes into the development of the game. And so the license that that Veloren uses, there's a few different very common licenses out there for open source software. So you have like the MIT license, you have Apache, you have GPL. And so these all mean different things and they all have different implications. The ones that are like the current meta for what a lot of open source repos are doing is using a dual license of Apache 2 and MIT. And this means that you can choose whichever license works best for you. And this might have connotations depending on how you're going to use it, who's the end user, how can people redistribute the software. And so that works well for a lot of projects, but then Veloren actually uses a different one. So we use GPL3. And so there's a lot of reasons for this, but the big item with GPL3 is that a lot of people, it could work well for some projects. It might not work well for some projects. But it says that if anybody wants to use the code, then they must keep it open source. And so you can use it in any way that you want. You can take this game, you can like make changes to it. You can send it off to your friends to play. You can even take this game and change it and sell it yourself. But the code must remain open source. Any changes that you make that are based on this code base must remain open source. And so the reason that we chose it for Veloren, I think we have this like in our FAQ. But for us, as like we're developing a game, as we have people coming in and putting in assets, we want to try and keep some type of copyright. Well, not necessarily some type of copyright to the people who created it, but just have people know that anything that will be created as a derivative of Veloren will always be open source. And so this is a little bit of a restriction on the open source ethos. A lot of other projects that follow the MIT license or follow the Apache 2 license, the idea behind that is you can take the code that is created and do anything you want with it, including keep it closed source or make it closed source rather. And so it is a little bit different here and there. And so, so for us as a game, making it open source has done quite a lot. Let me just flap to the mountain over here. I'll hang out here for a few minutes. So for us, being open source has done a ton. First of all, it can help people really trust in the project, because if it's open source and if anybody's allowed to contribute to it, then you don't really have the fear that it's just going to disappear, right? Because you can, like anybody at any point can take the code base, fork it, have their own copy, just in case the whatever, like GitLab goes down or something like that, and you can't access it anymore. And so you can sort of put trust in the team that stuff won't just disappear. But then also, since there isn't a financial incentive behind this for people to work on it or want to make a buck off of it or anything, then anybody who comes in and puts work into this can feel like they're really putting it towards something that that they trust and that they believe in. Now, just because we are an open source project doesn't mean that we don't look for money. Or we don't try to get money. And the big area right now that we're focusing all our funds towards is server costs. And so currently we're on a multiplayer server. As I said, there's like 24 people online. We have several, we have several servers that we keep up every month. But primarily our game server is running in Germany right now. As you can see, my ping is like 138 milliseconds, so a little bit further. We don't have like geolocated servers right now, but we do take donations that go towards the project in this way. And so like people will donate. This goes to server costs. I keep like a finance sheet of like what we spend money on, and anybody's able to go check that out. And I make sure that this is like visible to everybody, because I want it to be very clear what's like how money is moving around inside of the project. So on top of this, that's sort of like the outside view. This is what like open source is, but then inside the project, how does this work for development? And so we have, as I mentioned, we've had like 200 people come in. 200 recorded people. I'm trying, like, it's been like a sort of side project of mine within the within Veloren to try and get a collection of just everybody who's contributed to the game, so that I'm able to show off or just make a credit scene with everybody, just because we don't have that right now. We have, it is very easy to record people who contributed code because that's tracked on GitHub, but it's much more difficult to keep track of a lot of the composers and writers and designers and everybody who's done stuff that's not as like ingrained in the Git history. So here, I'm just gonna fly down the mountain here. It's a pretty nice mountain to fly down. So with the project, we work in a with a working group sort of practice, where there's several different teams that are working on a lot of different things. And so, for example, I'm the lead of the meta team, and I handle a lot of outreach. I write the weekly blog. I do some stuff related with servers and finance. So it's kind of like just everything that isn't necessarily related to like actually like developing the code itself. But we also have team leads for like the rendering system, networking, combat, physics, and all of these teams will have a lead. It will have people who are contributing to it in different ways, and this means that there's sort of a point of accountability for these topics. And so we have team leads, and then we also have some core developers. And so the core developers are the people who are like the most trusted on the code base. They have been around for quite a long time. Oh, here we have a river, and so I mean, I was talking about this a little bit, but the cool thing about rivers is that they actually always go downhill. So I could follow this probably all the way to a lake. So does well, I could if I didn't. Okay, 1 sec. Let me just get some altitude here. There we go. Well, okay, I need to keep moving in the direction. There we go. Yeah, so I'm an admin on the server. I got all these like cheaty things. You can't normally do all this magical flying stuff. I just have it accessible to me. So with these working groups, we also hold meetings every week. And so every Sunday, we have about like half an hour to hour long meeting where we can discuss any topics that have come up. And this is just an opportunity for everybody to sort of stay in sync. And then every like 2 or 3 months, we host we have a release, and then we host a release party. And so a lot of this combined, like doing the blog, doing outreach, giving talks like this one and other ones, has given us the ability to really reach out and make the community know that there's that we are one with them. We're not like some big corporation where everything like is sort of behind the scenes. Like we put out a weekly blog. You can see what we're working on in between releases, and not only can you see what we're working on, we ship nightly versions of the game. So I'm playing on the version that was created, as we can see at the top of the screen, 2021 November 26th, which is today. And so if people added stuff, then I'm able to go and play it. Let's see. There we go. And so this is sort of what the game looks like from the perspective of like sort of management, how we organize teams. One really big question that a lot of people have is like, how do we come to consensus on a lot of ideas? And so, for example, when there's not like a project manager necessarily, or there's not someone at the top who's saying this happens, this happens, this happens, this is my vision, then how did we get this far with like a lot of design and with a lot of just like figuring out how stuff works, and a lot of it comes down to really strong communication. And so we have a Discord server where we facilitate all of our periodic meetings. We have discussions with developers. Any players can come in and tell us about problems that they've seen. We also have just a lot of other community oriented channels, so people can come and post screenshots of the game. People can come and talk about, I mean, most importantly, like the fact that when you come in and chat in these channels, the core developers are the ones reading these messages. And so lots of people are able to get their input in. But then also when it comes to making decisions, so for example, with a lot of design decisions, the combat team has a lot of say on how things go, and they put in a ton of work for setting up stuff like animations and weapons and progression systems. And there's a lot of people who are working on a lot of these things. And this isn't to say that it's perfect. There's definitely a lot of contention about a lot of the ways that things should go. But we also have this base of what this kind of game is. Like we can think of like how Minecraft does some stuff, like what Minecraft feels like when you go off and do combat, what Cube World feels like, and so there's a lot of a lot of places that we can take inspiration from. I'm coming to a village. Is this? Oh yeah, this is the starting village. I made it back here. Very cool. And so diving a little bit into the technical side as well. When we're working on a project like this so distributed, we've actually been able to get a ton of benefits from the language that we're using, like that underlies the game. And so we have, let's go hang out in town for a bit. We decided to, or back when the project was created, the original team decided to use Rust as the language to build the game in. And so this has given us a ton of benefits. Like one of the biggest ones is just like the ease at which you can do a lot of collaborative development. And so this means like when we are working on putting code together in GitLab, Rust helps us with a lot of guarantees about what can't happen while the program is running. And so this comes down to the idea of memory safety and sort of like this contract that you sign with the compiler that if if your code is allowed to compile in Rust, well, there's this thing. If your code is allowed to compile, it will probably run. And this is because Rust's borrow checker and Rust ownership system will prevent you from making a lot of mistakes in your code that can then lead to a lot of problems at runtime, like seg faults, like issues with null pointers. Any type of undefined behavior is not able to compile in Rust, in safe Rust. And so this is like a lot of sort of computer science jargon, but what it means is that when someone is trying to get their code into the game, if they are able to make their code work and compile, there's a very high likelihood that it's going to work with everything else that, like, once you merge it into the game. And so what this means is our code reviews turn from, are we sure that every line of code here is doing what we expect it to? And this changes to, if it compiles, then like we can just take a look at parts of code and try to see if they're maybe less optimized than we want, or if they are maybe touching something that could run into a problem later. And so this just gives us like a much better feeling that we're not going to have to get someone new on the project and then get them up and running and making sure that they know how to make everything work right off. And so other than that, we have with Rust as well, we get the benefits of memory safety gives you a lot of guarantees around when you're doing stuff on like multi-threaded as well. And so concurrency, running stuff on multi-core CPUs, is something that we can really benefit from. And this is something that our server really benefits a ton from. Like when we run our release parties, we like our peak amount of players that we've ever had is 180 players on the server at once. And this was because we could run on a server with 48 cores and make really good use of a lot of those cores. And there's still a ton of optimizations to go. I've written like a lot of blog posts on like these release party stats. And so if you want to see like what this looks like, you can definitely find some blog posts that discuss that. So I think I'm going to try to keep this to half an hour just because we have quite a few talks coming up after this today. But I do want to end off with how can you get involved with projects either with Veloren or projects like Veloren. And so with open source, with a lot of projects, there's a strong mentality of mentorship. And so helping you get started with the project, learn what you need, learn from the people who have been working on it. And so open source is all over the place. Like pretty much anything in software that you'd want to work on, there's some type of open source related to it, whether it's web dev, app development, game development, embedded system stuff. There's open source for everything. Now, of course, there's also a lot of closed source projects. A lot of companies still use their own proprietary items. But for a lot of for a lot of software nowadays, it's moving much more towards the open source ethos. And so I think that the best way, so with Veloren in particular, we try our best to make it so that anybody can come in and get started and try either contributing to the code, can try contributing some art assets, some music. And so if you're interested in that, you can always join the Veloren Discord. If you go to veloren.net or just look up Veloren on Google. I don't know if okay, yeah. So in the bottom left, Veloren. So this is hard because there's the game Veloren that came out last year, but we had the name first, and so well, I mean, it's not the same name; it's just similar enough that we always get confused. And so if you come to our Discord, we can help you get started with whatever you're looking to help with. We also started recently running what we call code reading clubs. And so this is just an opportunity every 2 weeks for some of our developers to talk about the systems that they've worked on. So we've had 2 so far. First one, we dove into like the site system. And so this is like when we're generating a village, how do we build houses? How do we like sort of build them a little bit more procedurally without having to model them all ourselves? And then more recently, we did the Spots 2 system in layers. And so this was looking at like when you're building the world, like we have the terrain already, we have the mountains, but how do we place the trees? How do we place the paths? How do we place the shrubs and stuff like that? And it's really amazing how some of these systems are like really not too difficult to start playing around with and start exploring. And so this is definitely something that like we want to try and bring new people on and get introduced to these systems. And so we've created a few videos that are on our YouTube channel. You can check them out and kind of see what kind of stuff what kind of stuff they have going on. And so I think that's about it for my list. I don't have too much else to add in today, and I will try to take a look on Discord. Actually, I don't have health, so I won't die if I fall. Easy peasy. And just seeing if there are any questions in general, but if not, I'll bring Connor back onto stream and we can tell you about what else is going on today.
Hello.
Hello.
So that was fantastic. I haven't really seen the new world generation and stuff in Veloren, some of this new kind of ecological based world generation. And as someone who has researched this for, people wondering, as someone who has researched how to generate these things, it is extremely impressive to see how it's working. And wow, it's so pretty. It's so pretty how it's all working out. That's fantastic. It's not just this simulated thing. It actually looks fantastic with it all. So that's great.
Absolutely. And actually, I was just gonna say, like, sort of like on the back end, it's really interesting because we do like, as core, we do have like all of these like very rigorous simulations going on that represent like how nature works through like moisture in the environment and how like cities are trading and stuff like that. It's all data, but we've been doing a big push recently to get this more visible on the front end so that you can actually see what it results in like the world itself as you're playing.
Yeah, and it really does look so good. And you can like feel that it's all actually working there with the fireflies, with the really nice it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
I did have one big question that might be of interest to some people as well, but one of the big aspects of open source is that it's anyone can jump in and contribute and help out in some way. And that means that like Veloren is a hugely international thing. There is a lot of people from all over the place working, and like how is Veloren handling having so many people from so many different places contributing to it and kind of keeping coordinated with that international community?
Yeah, and so there's a couple techniques that we use that make it a little bit easier. And so for everybody in the game, we try our best to get people on the Discord to put in their time zones into like their usernames, just so we know when people are awake at certain times of the day. And a lot of the team is from the Americas, and then from Europe. And so this means that like the Americans will be up later at night, and then the Europeans will be around earlier in the morning. And so this is one way that we kind of keep track of like where people are and stuff like that. But with the meetings, this is the other way that we sort of keep in touch. And so each of our meetings consists of going through several different sections. And so we start by taking a look at like, let's say like 7 issues on our GitLab that people have created. And we'll take a look at if they are still valid, if they have been resolved, or if we can just close them, if we can pass them off to someone. And so this is a way that we try and make sure that we stay on top of like especially old stuff and like sort of keeping everything clean. And then we also take a look at any pull or merge requests or pull requests that people have made. And so I think that there's a lot that we try and do to make it easy for people to come in and get started and be taken seriously. Oh my, there's a lot. That's
there's a lot going on.
I'm just trying to run through this cave. Holy! The way you're supposed to do is you're supposed to kill everything as you go by, not just run by. But I don't have the.
Not just let it all follow you and start causing mayhem.
Exactly. And so I think what I would like to see more of is more periodic streams where we have the developers hanging out together, kind of either doing code review or going through and just talking about different parts of the code base, doing more community-oriented stuff. Like we have our release parties. Oh no. We have our release parties every few months, but this is really the only time that we get a lot of people in the community together to do like this type of playing thing. So it'd be cool if we could have more events that will like just like on a Saturday, hey, we're doing like we're having like a gliding competition or something like that. And so kind of seeing how that goes.
Anything with more gliding, I love it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like once you try it yourself, you really see like how smooth, buttery smooth it feels, and so.
Oh, absolutely. Like this stream can't get across the feeling that it is when you first glide and you're like, oh, I like this a lot.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's super cool. Like Veloren, I really like. I mean, we've been talking about it all LameJam, but Veloren really is the embodiment, like the product, and it looks so good of what we've been saying: collaboration and communication, like keeping everything in check and all the excellent. If you want to see the amount of communication that is involved in this, go check out what is it now? 139 weekly blogs that have been put out by you this
something, yeah.
140. Wow. Weekly blog post communicating everything. It's fantastic if you want to see what it's like to have this big community. It's so awesome to have seen that kept up for so long and the great stuff that's come out of it. So that was super cool.
Awesome.
All right, so should we talk a little bit about what else is going on today with everybody getting up and excited about the day?
Yeah, for sure.
So in, I think about half an hour or so, I will be doing a quick talk on production. So if you're interested on boosting your communication and collaboration skills, I'll be talking a bit about game production at that point. So that's going to be 10 Eastern until about 10:45 Eastern or so. And then there'll be a little bit of a break. If you would like to tune into the retro repair stream, that's going to be going. So you can join in actively, or you can just jump in and kind of see what's going on with the retro repair and put it on in the background. That's up to you, or you can ignore it, I guess, if you don't care about retro hardware, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. So you might want to dip in and at least see what's going on. And aside from that, yeah, we've got some stuff later tonight, but I think everyone's real focus is going to be on trying to get that playable demo out by the end of the day. We're going to be doing our play tests at I believe 8 o'clock is when we've slated to try and get everyone together on the server to do some play testing. And right before that, Forrest is going to be coming back and joining us to give a talk on how to export your games from Godot and get them up on itch. So even if you're not using Godot, we're going to talk a little bit about how to actually get your game out there so people can start play testing it. So I guess good luck, everybody, on getting your games together. I love seeing everything about Veloren. It is the most like polished open source game. It just looks so nice, and every time I see it, there's something new and exciting. So I get gushy every time I see it. So thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you again, Forrest. That was awesome. So
awesome. Thank you.
Take care. See everybody later, and good luck with the jam.